everyone. Welcome to the podcast series What's Your Story? Today we have with us a prominent entrepreneur who has founded large successful companies like QED Loyalty Management Private Limited, Let Enrich, Demand Source, and Demand Farm. Mr. Milind Katisar. Sir is an electronics and communication graduate from Gokte Institute of Technology and has done his MBA from Institute of Management Development and Research, Pune. Post that, he had worked as senior officer at Tata Motors for 2 years. In his entrepreneurial journey, he has experienced both failures and successes. He co-founded, scaled a digital media and demand gen company to 700 people before it was acquired by New York-based Ziff Davis. Sir is now a co-founder and CEO at Demand Farm. Demand Farm is where he continues to build software products to make account planning effective and effortless. It's a pleasure to have you here with us, sir.
My pleasure too. Thank you.
You started your career in the corporate world and then became an entrepreneur. So what motivated you to become an entrepreneur?
For some reasons, I used to be very passionate about business itself, even during my engineering days. I was one of those odd guys who used to read Economic Times in your engineering days. So I was just passionate about business. I loved looking at businesses, studying them, etc., etc. And that coupled with, I guess, a little bit of stupidity to become an entrepreneur, because in those days, entrepreneurship was not in the vogue the way it is today. There were no mentors, there were no VCs, and then etc. So it was more from an angle saying, okay, let's do business. So it was not so smart. Not a great way to do it. I mean, today's world, it's very different way why people and how people become entrepreneurs though. But for me, it was purely the rawness and passion for business, I guess. Yeah.
Sir, what inspired you to start Demand Farm? What was the problem you intended to solve through it?
Demand Farm is the only company which I believe is what I started for the right reasons and for the right things. So by the time we founded Demand for almost 15 years, right, we were very closely associated with sales and marketing of B2B companies, as well as technologies associated with it, be it sales tech or marketing technologies. So having worked with several B2B companies in that area, because that was what we provided services for. And we were able to clearly see a gap where account planning per se for B2B companies, where 80% of the revenue actually comes from existing strategic accounts. The landscape of tools available for account managers was almost zero. So for example, account analysis was done outside of the system manually. The account planning was done manually somewhere else. And we could clearly see a gap there, and then we validated that and then said that, okay. And this was also the time when a lot of new categories were emerging within sales tech and marketing tech. And we realized that account planning is that white space, which has a potential to digitize. Basically, digital account planning we believed was important, and luckily it proved out to be right. That's what we are seeing now.
So you have managed to form a great team for Demand Farm. How did you do that? And also, how was the co-founding team formed?
Abhijit and Abhijit, who is my co-founder, even in all my previous companies and even in this company. So we were classmates in MBA. We were the one who used to sit on the katta of our canteen and said that humko dhanda karna hai during the college days. And we were the one who actually came together and actually did it. So co-founder was no-brainer. I mean, so since then we've decided to do all our businesses together anyways. And then we complement each other really well. We are two completely different type of people. We have different type of skills. We complement each other very, very well. But huge amount of respect and trust, which is very important amongst the co-founders. So when it came to Demand Farm, I think co-founder was like established. I mean, we were the one who were going to do that. But importantly, the team, I guess, was a hard thing. You're starting up, you're a small company, and especially if you're a product company or anything, you need the best talent out there, right? But the best talents are usually picked up by large brands. So what is the story? What is it that you by that time I had kind of learned that the passion and then the purpose and then the idea of creating something. So if you are able to create that, and if that person believes in me and believes in your story, and that's when you get your great people in the beginning. Not really the money. I mean, so because they don't come to you for that. So you need to convince them about this opportunity of creating something really nice, which has a great purpose behind it, and then with a lot of passion. I mean, so not everybody will buy into it, of course. Not everybody will buy into it. In fact, many won't, right? So large brands, large companies. I mean, so obviously it's good also, right? So I mean, so but there are some people who will, and it's your ability to identify them and then make a pitch.
What strategies did you first use to market your business?
Basically, the complexity of sales and value of the deals. Right? Just imagine like low, high, right? So you get 4 boxes. So high complexity of deals and high deal value, right? That's one box, right? So over there, the kind of salespeople, the kind of strategy is purely field sales. You need a very senior guy with the connect, because your complexity of sales is very high, and you are talking about millions of dollars worth each deal. So you know that the sales cycle is long. It's mostly outbound, relationship driven, senior go solution driven kind of a strategy. The whole your marketing to sales strategy will kind of flow like that, and the people that are associated. So it's more like creating the thought leadership, going to large companies and then doing that.
How do you see digital account planning evolving across the world after this pandemic?
People realized that remote working is possible. In fact, it's more productive, and therefore a digital thing in every process, be it sales, be it marketing, be it accounting, be it whatever it is the way to go. So therefore, even for us, I think in fact, for account planning, it became even more important. So because the team managing your accounts are spread across the world, and your customers, the people that you are serving in your account, are also spread across the world. The only way to do it was on a common software platform which we had built. So the collaboration that had to happen on a software platform. So for us, and then the advantage of that is it becomes data driven, therefore, because it's now on a platform.
What problems and challenges did you face with your ventures like LeadEnrich and QED Loyalty Management Private Limited? And did those help you in your next ventures in DemandSure and Demand Farm?
So as I said, right in the beginning, a couple of ventures in the beginning, and the reason why they didn't work out as well as they should have was because we didn't answer this question really well about like what problem did you solve and to whom. It was more like, I want to do business. It's very easy to answer your how and what, no? It's so much more harder to answer why. In case of our previous business, which was demand and lead gen, I mean, I think we kept answering that over the phases, right? Every time a transformation has to happen, a strategy has to change, and we kept doing it. And in some businesses like LeadEnrich, we didn't answer that question really well as to whose problem was I solving, and then is that really a problem, and therefore didn't work out well. So why, what, and how? Yeah. That's the order. It's very easy to answer the how question. So very hard to answer the why question though.
What is the greatest risk you have taken so far? Was it worth the effort?
Almost, I think 10 to 12 out of top 20 IT services companies of India were our customers. And we're just growing and growing from 2005, 6, 7, 8 timeframes. And 2008, end of 2008, the financial crisis in the US hit when the bubble burst in the US. And it led to a huge recession, starting with US and then global and then across the world. So what happened is for us, like we were growing and growing, and then that recession hit, and then suddenly our business crashed by 40% or 50%. And then we had already made investments thinking that we'll keep growing. And then a time came when, but we knew that we have hit upon something really good, and it's only a temporary thing. We have to survive the recession. And then if you cross it, then there's usually post-recession, there's a huge growth. But it's very important to survive. So for which requires cash flows, right? I usually call this as an all-in situation, right? In poker, you go all in at some point of time in your life. So what we did is we went to a bank and then said that, okay, I mean, we need a working capital loan, I think 20-25 lakhs in those days. But banks were saying, I mean, so what is the asset that you have? And luckily, both of us had houses, but both of the houses or apartments were on loan though. So one small bank somehow decided, we went to many banks, but one bank said that, okay, you mortgage your house and then we'll give you a loan of 20-25 lakhs or something. So I remember signing that. I guess that's the big risk. I don't think I can take that now though.
What's your mantra for dealing with success and failures?
So, I mean, after a lot of time, right? So what I have realized is you succeed only with support of a lot of people, right? Whereas failure is mostly your responsibility and yours alone. It's important to know this, right? You don't succeed just because of you. You succeed because there are many people who support you, right? Whereas failure is mostly because of you, really, because you didn't get the support of people. That's why you failed. So once you know that, you know how to deal with it. So you're very grateful for the success. You're very humble for the success. You share the success with everybody else who supported with you. That's how you deal with success, really. Humility and sharing that joy, sharing that success is important. And that feeling you get, provided you genuinely believe that success comes because a lot of people supported you. Whereas when it comes to failure, right? I mean, don't blame others. Acknowledge, take the responsibility, learn what went wrong, and then go.
According to you, what is one thing that a person must do in their lifetime?
All of us should jump the orbit, right? So what does that mean? We're all born in circumstances, in situation, whatever we are born with, right? And then that's an orbit that we have. So if you ask me, so a cab driver's son becoming an engineer and then therefore a vice president in a large company, and then a billionaire son actually not doing much. So if you ask me who's succeeded and just running his dad's business, who's succeeded, this guy has. Because he's jumped the orbit, the other guy did not jump the orbit. So if you ask me what is that one thing that everybody should do, I think they should jump the orbit.
Who has been the biggest influence in your life? Who would do you look for advice or mentorship?
At various points in your life, there are many people influence you, right? When you're much younger, obviously our family, our parents, father. And then I remember my athletic coach in school was a big influencer at one point. It really influenced me quite a bit. My professors in our MBA colleges, and then my friends during an MBA. One friend whose father was a very, I mean, a very senior position, my friend's father. And then there was the first time that I had encountered somebody who was like very big in the corporate world. He inspired me a lot at that point of time. I've been very fortunate to get the guidance and then be inspired by a lot of people along the journey, depending upon whatever. The world really conspired to help me.
What role did your family play in your success? And what, according to you, is the importance of family support for a budding entrepreneur?
I mean, in my case, again, I've been lucky. So see, an entrepreneur, at least in the beginning 5 to 7 years, goes through a lot, goes through hell, right? I mean, a lot of self-doubt. You go through mental agony, you go through financial troubles. You go through rejections, you go through dejections, you go through depressions, and so on and so forth. And you're dealing with all of that, of course, right? Now, if you don't have a supporting family, especially your spouse and then parents, if you're too young, it's almost impossible. If the family support did not exist in the early phase of their life, I don't think they will give up. It's too much to handle.
In one of the posts, you mentioned that growth comes from a deeper and broader understanding of customers and their needs.
Yeah.
Sir, I would be really glad if you could highlight some points on this and how entrepreneurs should plan their pathways accordingly.
Suppose I've got an idea. I want to build a product, or I want to build a service. I want to create a business out of something. And then you think hard about it, and then you say that, hey, this is what I will do, and this is the product, and this is the idea. So a lot of times what we miss out is just focus on the idea and not realizing that, like, whose problem am I solving? Is the problem big enough? Will somebody pay for it? So what it really means is understand who your initial customer is going to be. It's usually defined by the industry, the size of the organization, and the geography. So for example, if somebody today comes and you know what, I'll make a software for accounting. Right? Why? Because all companies require accounting, no? But accounting softwares have been made for last 40 years. I mean, you need to think of one problem, which is like key account management, for example. That's what we talk about. So it's like, so it has to solve a very specific segment's problem to begin with. And then you need to validate that. So it's important to go with the narrower set of it. Then your marketing strategy, sales strategy, the product that will be, everything becomes easier. It's very hard to build a software or any product for everybody in the world, no?
How have your priorities changed from when you started first?
I believe in the beginning, right? My priorities were a lot of these hard factors of a business, like numbers, product, revenue, growth, all of those things, right? The hard factors of the business, which were more important than the soft factors. Now it is completely reversed. Today, if I were to think of it, I realize that those hard factors actually should be secondary. What matter is empathy to your people, empathy to your customers. All the soft factors of what is the message, what will resonate, how do you attract good talent, how do you retain great talent. These are soft factors, and it requires a lot of emotional stuff, a lot of empathy, a lot of that's what I will place first, and then the hard factors will follow actually.
If you get to meet your 20-year-old self, so what advice would you be giving him?
To place a lot of importance on learning and not too much on shosha, in a way. As in, like, you take up a job or you do whatever it is where you're learning more, and rest of it will fall into place. I mean, that's what I tell a lot of 20-year-olds today as well. If your job is not teaching you today, when you're in 20s, you will continue to learn all your life. I mean, you will be in a tactical level all your life. I also tell him that I think I was a little too serious a person. I think I will tell myself 20 years ago to, like, enjoy a little bit and take life nicely. I mean, life is good, life is fun. I think I was a little too serious in my 20s.
So what is one piece of advice you would give to young aspiring entrepreneurs out there? And what are the key 5 skills needed to be a successful entrepreneur?
The concept of goodness in business. I mean, that's one thing that I kind of try to tell a lot of people nowadays. I really believe that being good, being nice is extremely important to succeed as an entrepreneur. In the modern age entrepreneurship, being nice, being good helps. That is when the world conspires to make you successful, really. And you need a lot of world. You cannot do this on your own. You need the help of the world. Be it mentors, be it investors, be it employees, be it people, be it friends, family, etc. Right? So you need a lot of help from the world, and that help comes only if you are genuine, if you're good, if you're nice. Is okay. The first one out of all that to succeed in a business, as I told you, right? The why question, like who your customer is, what problem solving. That's the first one. Every time something goes wrong, don't ask who question, ask what question. That's number 2.
Who is your favorite sports person?
Rahul Dravid.
What did you dream of being as a kid?
Oh, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a footballer, actually.
If you could talk to one person from your history, who would it be and why?
There's one person I would like to talk to is Shivaji, Chhatrapati Shivaji. Whew, I mean, capturing a fort from the mighty Mughals at the age of 16 and then going on to do whatever they did. Like, I just wanted to get into his mind and then say, boss, how did you do it? I mean,
One superpower you would like to have?
I think if I can heal somebody's mental illness, then everybody get a chance to make their lives.
So what's something that you would not do not like doing?
That's also a complaint a lot of my family and friends do is I can't endure small talks for too long.
One place you would love to visit?
What's actually playing in my mind now? I mean, in India, I would like to go to this place called Dholavira. There's a place in Gujarat apparently where which was a port city. I recently read a book called The Lost River, and then where Saraswati flew, and then there's a lot of scientific study which was done on that, and then so it was a great port. And so I've been very curious about that from the time that I've read it. I've been wanting to go to Dholavira.
One movie you would recommend?
I think Pursuit of Happiness.
So thank you very much for answering all our questions so patiently. And this brings us to the end of our podcast.
Thank you so much. I really loved this. I enjoyed this. Yeah, really appreciate the kind of initiative and the kind of intelligence and kind of thought that you guys have put into this. I mean, I was skeptical when I said, okay, here is another college. But this has been the most intellectually challenging college interaction that I've had so far.